How's it going, everybody? Sean from LUMIX Live here, and as you can see, we are not in the studio. This is coming to you from Ojai, California, while we're out here for the LUMIX Collective Summit here. And we wanted to do a little bit of the video to continue with the series while we're away, where we dive maybe a little bit deeper into some of the features and capabilities on the LUMIX cameras in a way to be a little more concise with the various features. So one of the things that we wanted to kind of cover on this particular stream is the use of the Real Time LUT system. Now, we've talked about this many times before on various live streams, but using this as an opportunity to actually show you through the videos that we typically create while we're away from the studio, you know, how these actually work, how you can get very specific looks, very different styles. So what we're gonna do here is, I have a number of stylistic LUTs on my G9 Mark II, which is filming me right now. And we're gonna kind of go through them, show you the various different looks here, the ones that I tend to love, and really kind of try to explain what it is that they're doing to the image and how you can work with them, and a couple of the pitfalls that you want to make sure that you're aware of when you're wanting to use them in your filmmaking or in your photography. So right now, this entire start of the stream here has been filmed with the LUMIX 709 color profile in the G9 Mark II. So it's a very simple, straightforward, you know, kind of ready for things like YouTube or broadcast, whatever you want to do with it. You don't really need to edit it much. Making sure you do a good, proper white balance is always a very good key thing, especially when using an ND filter like I'm using right now. But it's very bland. It's a very straightforward profile. It's not necessarily something that, you know, if you want to add your own flair to the kind of content that you're making or your own style, it's not necessarily the best one. It's designed to be very clinical for the most part. But what you can do with this system is, obviously we have all of the LUTs on our website, which we'll put a link in the description, that are designed for vlog conversions to various different styles. So things like aggressive 709, nicest 709, things like that. And while many people already know those, we're not really going to be using those for the demonstration here because they're very straightforward. There are also other things that you can do as far as creating LUTs through programs like Photoshop or DaVinci Resolve for other color profiles found in the LUMIX cameras. So we're gonna jump, right after this, we're gonna jump to one of my favorite profiles that I've been using in the photography side and show you how, even though this is a photography-based LUT and profile setup on the camera, it actually can give you some really cool appearances when you're filming on any of the cameras, but you don't necessarily need to go into Vlog. So let's cut to my favorite LUT, which is a Kodak representation from the 1930s. All right, so now we're back. Now, as you can see with the look here, you get a very different appearance on this particular LUT pack. Now, these are still kind of like test LUTs. I've been working and asking around with some of the various different, you know, kind of looks and stuff that you can create out online. So I want to give a huge shout out to Ted Forbes for the work that he's doing with his presets for Lightroom and the various different platforms. Now, I can't name the branding of them at this moment, but if you check out Ted Forbes, his packages for the Lightroom presets, that's why this is more of a photo-based look. But what's awesome about this one is that I get a pretty stylistic look. You know, you get the kind of crushed more shadows, the, you know, kind of lifted black level. You do get crushed highlights in this one, and it's a very serious specific look. So in a case like this, is it gonna be really awesome for video? You decide. There may be things that you're filming where this could actually be a very interesting look for what you want to go for as far as your content goes. If you're going for a period piece, you can look to have something very quick. Now, the reason that I was saying earlier that, you know, these are very photo-based profiles that I'm using on the camera right now is that these are all based in the standard color profile. So if you're someone who is very big into color grading and editing and you always shoot in log, this whole stream is probably not going to be that interesting to you, or maybe it will be. But these are the things that you can do when you know you're going to work to try to get your exposure as correct in camera, you're watching your waveforms, making sure you're trying to keep skin tones proper, or if you're even just clicking record and you just want to go for stylistic to play around with. So this is a film simulation from the 1930s. It is based off of some of the projects that Ted Forbes is doing, so I encourage you to go take a look at his. This one, as I said, is pretty much one of my favorite ones to work with because you get that very, kind of cool old style look to it. But we're gonna go to probably one of the more popular ones that I've used, and we'll see how that changes the appearance of the hedges behind me, skin tones, things like that. All right, now we're back with probably one of my other favorite kind of looks for these kind of, standard-based photography LUTs. And again, a lot of this, this may be, super basic for a lot of you, but knowing that you don't always have to be shooting in things like Vlog. You don't always have to look for Vlog and maximize dynamic range. Sometimes you are looking for very specific looks for quick turnaround, for quick delivery. And LUTs like this can be a great benefit for that, especially ones like the pack that I'm using right now and testing out, which are film photography based looks. So these are based off old school film stocks in the photography side that many of us know when you actually start looking at them, but you get a very specific style to the content that you make. So in the video format, this one is mimicked off of one of the other opposite brands of the previous one. I have to be very careful about the naming here. But one of the things that you'll notice here is you get a lot more contrast in this, you get a lot more color in the background, and it just gives you a very different feel. So depending on if you're doing a period piece, or like while I'm here in Ojai Valley, California, there's a lot of that kind of Spanish style architecture in some of the areas here where it really lends itself well to some of those kind of more muted color palettes, things like that. I've been posting some pictures up online, and the collective that's out here, you'll probably see some cool stuff coming from them with this. But when you start to think about how, hey, I can take some of these things, these looks, these LUTs that I'm working with, and if I am truly a hybrid creator and I'm telling a story between photography and videography and I'm mixing the media together, whether it's for social or whether it's for a YouTube video like this or just things that you want to play around with, don't lock yourself into having to stick to a single style of video editing. Vlog's great. I like shooting in Vlog. I'm not the greatest colorist, but being able to capture in our cameras now and either use the actual real-time LUT profile, which can then throw a 709, kind of conversion on it, or your own style to it, can be a very useful thing when you want to do fast, quick turnaround. Or if it's a project that's more meaning that you don't want to spend a ton of time in post, getting out and actually creating things is one of the more fun parts of our jobs. And I do include myself in that. So utilizing the tools that you have in our cameras can be a big benefit to show you what this kind of stuff looks like. And as I said, this one, again, this is based on the standard color profile. This is a more punchy, more vibrant profile choice that I've got on here. This one tends to work really well if I'm doing things like landscapes, if I'm doing kind of work where I want the colors to be a little more vibrant and popping. But you do want to remember that this file that's coming out of the camera is this look. It's not a log. It's not going to have a ton of leeway in post if you really want to come in and lift these shadows because maybe you don't really like them. But again, that's why it's core to use things like color checkers, to use things like actual white balance cards, which I know a ton of you already do, if you're looking to be able to say, hey, I want this being shot and exposed properly in camera because I don't want to sit on the computer all the time. So we're going to look to one of my other favorite ones here while I'm on camera, and then we'll cut to actually talking about showing you the green behind me to show you really what the actual changes look like without necessarily skin tones in it. So let's take a look at my next favorite one right now. So here we are. This is the third of my favorite looks that I've been using recently, especially for this trip up here. This is a much more kind of neutral-ish look, so it's nicer, I believe it's nicer for things like skin tones. It gets me a little bit better balance. I still keep my shadows to where they're relatively normal looking, but they're not, you know, super lifted like you see, or the range isn't kind of clipped a little bit more like you see in that first one that we did. It was like a 1930s film style simulation. So what's nice about this one is that, again, it's based on the standard color profile. It is a photography base, so that means that you're not gonna load this over something like Vlog. In fact, you shouldn't do that. But you're gonna get a very kind of, you know, neutral look. So as I said, I've got, you know, the nice vibrant, you know, greens in the background behind me. I like the way the skin tones look. But it is much more important on this style of shooting, as I've mentioned a couple of times already, make sure you're doing things like white balance and all that stuff in the camera while you're doing it. Get it as accurate as you can right out of the box. And then use the tools that we have in the camera, like waveform, to make sure that my skin tone is sitting right around 18% or 42%, if you're thinking on the IRE scale, so that this particular level is in the right range as to where skin tone should be. You'll get the rest of the frame kind of right into that balance. And then if you're adding other lights to change the lighting ratios, you'll obviously add that there. It's a different way of shooting with looks like this. If you are someone coming from shooting with log, where you know that you're gonna have a ton of flexibility in post to fix it, or not necessarily fix it, to change it, to alter it, to modify the way the image looks to you. This is a very different way of working because you have to be a lot more deliberate in camera. So think of this as working with positive film. If you came from the photo film world, or in general video, you know, movie film side, you have to be a lot more deliberate with your exposure choices, with the contrast levels, because you don't end up having a lot of flexibility in post. It's a very shoot and deliver, you know, try to do as much as you can with either practical lighting or ambient lighting, and get all of your ratios done physically instead of trying to fix it in post. It's a lot more upfront work to make sure that you get the look the way you want, but you can get an amazing style out of it if you just give it a shot. All right, so let's wrap this up. So this is a very different video than we've done in the past, right? Normally we're looking through the camera menus, we're, you know, talking in detail about where to do that stuff, and we have all of that. I'm gonna link those throughout this video, so you should have seen the cards pop up for how to do the things that I've talked about here. But this is really to be more inspirational on the, you know, ways that you can use things like Real Time LUT. So I encourage you to play around with this stuff. Play around with the features that you have in these cameras, especially if you've just got your G9 Mark II. It's a lot of fun to be able to just get out there, create some cool stuff, and not have to, you know, go through the process of sitting at your computer, waiting to see how it actually comes out in the end. There is a nice thing of, you know, getting the near immediate payoff, because you can actually see how the colors look, how everything kind of, you know, falls into place with the piece of content that you're making. And it's fun to be able to mix both photography and videography and work in a truly hybrid case for storytelling. Whether you're doing this casually, if you've never created video content before, this is a fun way to get into it that, you know, kind of takes some of the I'd say intimidation factor out of when you look online and everyone tells you to shoot in Vlog and everyone tells you have to do X, Y, and Z. You don't. If you've got a view, if you've got an idea in your head of a look that you want to go for, we're trying to give you the tools so that you can just get out there and go do it. So I encourage you to take a look at the other videos that we've created on things like Real Time LUT, and creating LUTs for photography, which were linked in the video. They'll also be down in the description. I encourage you to get out there and create a bunch of stuff. You know, share it with us, show us on our social channels, share it to those around you. Everything that you do in the creative space is one of the kind of more fun things that, you know, people will always learn from each other with this stuff. So hopefully, even if you're a seasoned professional and you've worked in the video side and the photo side, hopefully you learned a little bit about, you know, ways to use your Lumix camera in an easier way than having to spend all the time in post. So if you're in the U.S., I hope you have a good holiday. Hope you have a good, you know, time off. Hopefully you get time off to relax and hang out with family and friends. Take a look at all of our content that we've been posting from the Shutter Showdown. It was such a fun project to be part of and to finally see everyone's reactions to the way it went out. Definitely a very different kind of production, I'd say, from our space of the world. So definitely go take a look at those. We'll have links down in the description for episode 1 and episode 2. But other than that, check out the LUMIX Collective with the things that we've got going on throughout the week. It's happening right now here in Ojai, California. So make sure to follow, check out our LUMIX USA account. We've got stories posting and posts going up about what's going on out here. It's a lot of fun. Other than that, yeah, I think that's where I'll end it. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome rest of your weekend.